Juz 17 starts with Surah Anbiya with a warning to the heedless man about the fast approaching hour of accountability, then refuting the Meccans' objection that angels should be sent as messengers. Allah declares in verse 7, "We have only sent men as our messengers." Further condemning their attitude towards the messenger and the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, "We did not create the heavens and the earth for amusement." Verse 16. Meaning everything has a purpose and the Quran is here to help you live your purpose. The proof for its truthfulness exists all around you, listing 6 evidences that affirm the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His power to create and recreate the skies and the earth, first being one entity. All living things are made of water. The pathways in the mountains, the sky as a protective roof, all celestial bodies, the sun and the moon moving along its orbits, and the alternation of the day and night. Anyone who turns away from these signs, let him know every soul shall taste death. Verse 35. In 41, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is comforted. Other messengers were made fun of before your time, but those who laughed at them in the end were overwhelmed by the very thing they made fun of. 48 to 91 provides the many stories about the prophets and their communities. Musa and Harun, the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam when they threw him into the fire, Lut, Ishaq, Yaqub, Nuh alayhim salam, the story of the field over which Dawood and Sulaiman alayhim salam gave judgment, Ayyub alayhi salam when he was tested with hardship, Ismail, Idris, Dhul-Kifl, Yunus, Zakaria, and Isa alayhim salam. The surah ends with a reference to Ya'juj and Ma'juj in verse 96, scenes from the hereafter, and at 107, one of the most famous verses in the Quran. "We have sent you only as a mercy to the worlds. Rahmatul lil alameen." Surah Hajj starts with a reference to the horrors of the Day of Judgment, responding to the Quraysh's disbelief in resurrection in verse 5 through an illustration of the phases of life. 19 to 23 describes the fate of those who argued about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and life after death. Then talking about the disbelievers who create hurdles in the path of the believers, verse 25 criticizes the Quraysh for preventing Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions from worshipping in Kaaba, then reminding Quraysh of the history of Kaaba with references to its construction and the instruction to Ibrahim alayhi salam to call mankind for Hajj so they can show veneration to the sanctities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who were oppressed and driven out of their homes in verse 39 is the permission to them to engage in physical warfare so they may defend their faith. The rest of the surah then praises the righteous, giving examples of the past disbelieving communities, a parable of a fly to refute the claims of an idol worshipper, finally concluding with an address to the believers to fulfill their duties following the way of Ibrahim alayhi salam. How? With prayer, giving zakah, and seeking help only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَنِعْمَ الْمَوْلَى وَنِعْمَ النَّصِيرُ.
من أجبت دعاء نوح فانتصر وحملته في فلكك المشحون يا من أحال النار حول خليل